Godzilla Media getting there with Goz on location back at Johnstone Supply in Troy. George Bejian joins us one more time. We teased it before that we were going to talk some boxing. With a big time heavyweight fight this weekend, we're going to talk about it. But before we get to boxing, the fall is here, George, and so many people might not know exactly what to do with maybe the heating in their home, furnaces, filters. Tell us about some of the things that people should be taking advantage of this fall here at Johnstone Supply in Troy.
Well, as always, we have the most efficient Energy Star equipment available in the mini split heat pumps, furnaces, hot water boilers. It's always good to take a look at your heating system this time of year and see where you're at with the most important appliance in your home. So we've got everything to repair, replace, or assemble any old or new system. We can help you get your old system in shape. We can help you to put a new system together. Whatever would be your need, we can help you out.
And there's so many different ways to do it, right? Whether it's in-store, over the phone, on the internet, a bunch of different ways people can connect with you this fall.
We have as many ways to connect as there are out there. You can get with us through text messages, telephone, email, online, internet, and we've got knowledgeable staff people here to help you out with any questions and make sure you get everything up and running for this heating season.
Those ways to connect, if you're listening on our audio side, you're going to see that in the description of the video. If you're watching on our YouTube side, right here on the ticker, your information, the best way to contact Johnstone Supply in Troy this fall is right here on the ticker below. Now let's talk some boxing. Let's talk the fight game. For those that may have not had the opportunity to listen to your February interview, pause the episode right now and go back and listen to the February interview. But for those who may have missed it, take us through your first connection to the fight game and how you slowly started to find yourself really in the mix of the boxing world.
Sure. Well, it was a pretty unique situation. This goes back to the days of Mike Tyson and locally here in Troy, Kevin Pompey, who was the Troy Tiger. He was fought at 147 welterweight, and I started going down to the Uncle Sam Boxing Club to do a little sparring and see what was going on down there. And at the time, a young fighter came back into the club, Verno Phillips, who was down in Argentina for the past year training down there. And when he came back, he needed to have somebody manage him. And my friend Paul and I were, available in the club. My friend Paul was more able to actually be a manager type for him. It was quite a role to undertake being a boxing manager when we never had anything to do with that. So we said to Verno, sign on with the current manager for a year, and we will take you everywhere. We'll learn the ropes, and we'll see what happens after a year, and see if it would be something that we would, be able to help you out with. So after 1 year, his last fight was for the vacated WBO junior middleweight crown against Lupe Aquino, who had just gotten out of prison for murder. He was an ex-WBA junior middleweight champ. And sure enough, Verno survived the flash first round knockdown, got up, and in the 5th round he broke Aquino's nose, and in the 7th round he didn't come out. So in fact, we actually had a world champ that we were going to manage and be with. So it was an extremely thrilling and exciting time. It was quite unique in the fact that we came in out of the blue and we had a world champ. So there was a lot of interesting boxing stories that happened over the next 4.5 years through numerous world title fights and events that we had gone to.
Think about that. From day one, you see the kid coming out of the club, just kind of training, trying to find his way. And it feels like a movie for you guys. From day one to finding him, just getting the call, to going to a world title fight. That agent, manager, that person in your corner, there's so many different phrases in which we've heard people talk about fighters and those people that mean something to them. You mentioned that it's you and your partner going through this at this point, kind of working with Verno to find out exactly where his career is going to go. Take us through some of your guys' responsibilities. Is it booking flights? Is it making sure he's training? Is it working with different people in different cities? What was your day-to-day like when trying to figure out where his career was going to go? You're also running a business, by the way, at this point, too, so you're kind of juggling things at this point of your career.
Right, right. Well, I wasn't quite as deeply involved as my friend Paul was. He was right in the thick of things from the time that he would take Verno to the club to train, to us getting ready for the title fights, to everything in between. It was time consuming, but it was worth it. It was well worth it, because it's just one of those unique opportunities that, you know, one of those once in a lifetime things. And so we made the best of it. We had the title for 4.5 years, and there was a lot of exciting stories, to come through all that time.
For sure, like a coach in sports, you sometimes notice that there's something special about a player. Maybe like a business owner, there's something special about a salesperson or a dealer or a business you're about to work with. For you, was there something in particular that stood out to Verno that said, you know what, we have to work with him, whether that be in the ring, personality-wise? What made him such a special fighter?
Well, he was very unique in his style. The boxing magazines were even saying he was like the next Sugar Ray Leonard. He could, once he got going after about the third round, he would hit with punches from the strangest angles that would just be very effective. And he was a great fighter to watch. He was very skilled, and was a hard puncher. He had a good number of knockouts, and there was quite a few fight stoppages, and so we could see that he was a good person, and he was really wanting to try hard. He really enjoyed the sport, but he was like so many inner city kids. He had all of his little demons and things like that we had to try to help him with, and the overall whole experience was so worth it and so exciting. I'd highly recommend it to anybody, but it just doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. And I told you one of the first times we spoke that having that big fight feeling, being in that arena, being in that stadium, and feeling the energy happen, you had a different feel to this than maybe most fight fans or sports fans, because you have a connection to the person inside the ring. Some of these boxing stories, we'll go to one of the first ones here. Take us through the first time professionally. You're in his corner, you're his manager. How did you feel when he actually was taking blows from another fighter? Were you excited, nervous, scared? I have this image of like the mom watching the game through the fingers. What was it like actually having that connection with someone fighting right there in the squared circle?
Well, it was a lot of things. I wasn't the manager. If I was anything, I was probably the sparring partner. And I carried the spit bucket into the ring.
Okay.
I did things like that, and but it was quite interesting, because I actually sparred with these guys.
Yeah.
And so it would be interesting. A lot of times when they're taking punches, you can tell that the punches aren't really, hurting them, because it would just amaze me, the punches that these guys could really take and keep on going. It was like I didn't get it. It's just that obviously you get used to it, and whenever I would spar, I always had headgear on and bigger gloves. I was an old guy doing this, and but the one of the fights that we did in Italy against Gianfranco Rossi, we fought in his hometown of Perugia, and that was it went to 12 rounds. Now, this was the first time we went out of town out of the country.
Right.
Not out of town. We've done title fights across the country, but we had one in Italy. So we got over there 10 days ahead of the fight, and we're staying in this beautiful Italian villa. Maybe there was 10 rooms in it, and there's wonderful kitchen and dining area and everything. And boy, that pasta was so good and everything, homemade pasta and everything. So the 2 days before the fight, we're like, hey Verno, we got to get you weighed. We got to see where we're at here. We're in Italy. There's no health clubs to go to step on a scale.
Right.
There's no place to go. So we called our interpreter and we said, hey, we have to get Verno weighed. We need to see where he's at. So he goes, okay, and we went over to visit his doctor. And his doctor weighs Verno. Now, I can't remember the exact number, but he says 60 stones. We're like, stones? No stones. 2 pounds, 2 pounds. Now, junior middleweight was 154. So he goes, okay, 164. Ooh. Ooh. We're like, whoa, you're sure? Yeah, 164. Oh my gosh. So now we're 2 days before the fight. Now, 10 pounds 2 days before the fight on a heavyweight is nothing. Okay? You do that, get rid of that in a breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So, but on a 150, go to 164 to 154 in 2 days' time, you're really straining the issue. So, come the weigh-in. Now, we're up in the room. There's no saunas. There's no place to go. So we're up in the room. He puts on his sweatsuit, starts chewing gum, starts spitting whenever he can. We got the shower. We got him in the bathroom with the shower turned all the way up. The steam is coming. He's skipping rope in there, and he's doing whatever he can. Next day, we get down there, and the weigh-in, and he was 2 pounds over. Ooh. This is after 8 pounds in like 36 hours. And so he has to go to that embarrassing thing and strip it all the way down naked, and you're just standing there. You're still, like 1.5 pounds. So it got all the way down. He was still ounces over the weight, but the other camp let it go. They said, okay, close enough. Well, freaking Verno exhausted himself, doing that. So next night is the fight. Get to the fight, and we were in Gianfranco Rossi's hometown. So that's always interesting. And the place was packed. It went through the whole 12 rounds. Verno would look over at us. We could see that he was like, oh man, what's going on? This guy's getting me all upset because he was doing some dirty stuff, But hey, elbows, this and that. Hey, I'm in my hometown,
Gonna get away with it a little bit.
Yeah. We're gonna take it for what we can. So the fight ends, and we lose. It's a decision for Rossi. So in the boxing match, before the fight, you pee in the cup. After the fight, you pee in the cup. So make sure nobody gives you something during the fight.
Right.
So when Verno did his thing in the cup, it was all blood. He always had his kidneys banged up, because he wore such a skimpy kidney belt, and so it's a long flight home from Italy, when you lose, and because that was one of his big fight. That everything was kind of like timed, you're getting everything scheduled out. His next fight was supposed to be against this guy, and it was all pretty well planned out because not sure we were going to beat Ross. And so we get all the way back to the States, and doesn't my buddy get a fax come in from Italy saying Rossi got disqualified, he tested positive for amphetamines. When does that ever happen?
Never.
And so those are like some of the emotional things, like, that happen where, out of the blue, you get a stroke of luck from something like that. And you could really see this guy he was tireless throughout the whole fight. He was just moving in and frustrating Verno, and it's hard to frustrate Verno, but this guy sure did. And so we got the title back and got a chance to do it again.
When you have the title, it almost, for businesses too, and for athletes, sometimes, hey, when you make it to college, that might be somebody's goal. You make it professionally, that's somebody's goal. When you become a champion, and you can be called a world champion for the rest of your life, and you meet somebody, world champion boxer, there might be some athletes who say, that's it, I'm good enough. They might take it a little easier at the gym. They might not fight as hard as they used to. It seems like Reno wasn't one of these guys that, even though he had the belt around his waist, he was still fighting like he was back in the days in the city and everything else.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about the boxing and everything. And it seems like, well, you know, like when you're either like in the ring or like when you're a rock star or something, when you get that audience like behind you, that's powerful. Even when you're a guy just looking at it from the corner. Mm-hmm. And so you can see these guys get really, you know, they stay in it longer than they should, or they get back into it when they shouldn't, like Evander did the other day.
I was going to ask you about him. Yeah.
That poor guy. You know, he was such a champ. I mean, it's too bad that sometimes, you know, they do that. But I get it. I'd love to be sparring again, you know, just to be doing it because it's so much fun. And but when you're an actual, you know, pro boxer and you're 35 years old and you're done, I mean, you're a young man. And what do you mean? You know, but it is a tough sport. Never mind Evander. How about you see Conor McGregor was picking a fight there with
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
At the VMAs, that's right. MTV. I'm sure any other person who does this competitively for a living that they fight, it's hard for someone to say no. You know, where, hey, I'm making money. This is my means of living. I don't know who's the one who usually steps in. Is it somebody in their family? Is it somebody in their corner? When do we get to a point when some of these boxers or UFC guys or anybody just says, enough's enough? I don't even know if you have somebody sometimes in a family like that.
I don't know if there is a time at this point, because here Evander's 58 and he stepped back into the ring. Mm-hmm. And you know, so it's interesting how that is going.
Do you think there's a chance that we see this reemergence of boxing or the fight game? Like, I'm sure when you were growing up and you were going through this, that the heavyweight champion everybody always knew. All the big title holders everybody knew. Could we ever see boxing, maybe with the style of celebrities getting their way in, that we see a reemergence of the popularity?
I think so. You know, MMA really took a lot of the attention away from boxing, and rightly so. I mean, boxing has its demons with it and everything, but it's a great sport. It's an exciting sport. It's you know, at this time of my life, as I think about it, boy, when you get punched in the head, it's exciting. It's a tough guy sport, but all it takes is one punch. My good friend Kevin Pompey, the Troy Tiger, I mean, he's got a lot of speech challenges because he's the greatest person in the world. You love the guy if you knew him, and yet I had him up here not too long ago, and I was showing him some old videos of us sparring. And after he left here and went home, you know, we exchanged phone numbers and everything for the first time in a while. And he called me no sooner did he get home, and he goes, I know I was there with you. He goes, but where were we? Where was I watching those videos? Berta, we're right down there in the store. Yeah. So I mean, boxing is such a thrilling sport to be. I can't imagine something more thrilling than you're blocking yourself from getting punched and you're trying to tag the other person. It's exciting, but when you take a couple of blows to the head without bigger gloves or without headgear like these boxers do, I mean, can you imagine playing football without any protective gear?
No.
Oh wait, that's called rugby.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Right, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Australia and the other countries. That's right. They said the American football is not as tough as what they got. That's right.
They look at us like we're babies or something.
That's right.
Those guys are something.
So with all the danger in the sport, no doubt that we learn more and more each year about what's happening. You are in a unique spot because you've got the business background, you've got the boxing background, you've got the local connections here. Are you officially retired from the boxing game? There's a chance this interview is going to hit, and all of a sudden someone starts Googling your name, they're wondering, the phone might ring all of a sudden. Are you retired? Are you unretired? Are you waiting for the phone to ring? Let's get that out of the way before we talk about Wilder and Fury here.
Yeah, I think you posed that to me last time too, kind of, sort of.
And I let it sit for another few more months and see if, you're like De La Hoya and all the other good fighters. You're unretired.
And I told you then, I never say never, but I would say it was so highly unusual to be able to step into a situation like that, and within a year's time, you've got a world champ. One of the matches that we went to, when the fellow was asking us a little bit about who we are and everything, how long have you guys been in boxing? And we said, about a year now. He looked at us with this shocked look and he says, a year? He goes, I've been doing this my whole life and I've never smelled a champ. You've had this, you got a champ in a year? How'd you do that? So it was pretty unique, but I do really enjoy the sport and working in it. So all I would say, it was I don't think it would happen for me again, but I just would never say that it would never happen. But probably won't.
Don't worry, the next time I interview you, I'll be asking you that same question one more time, and then eventually your phone's going to light up one more time again, and see, that'll be the fun part of it. You say, hey, that interview with Gaz a couple months ago,
guess what happened?
A little wave started, and sure enough, here I am back in a corner. When we are taping this, we're taping this in mid-September, but we're getting ready for Wilder Fury this weekend. You're listening to this in October. We've got this interesting time of, we've got an undefeated heavyweight champion who is popular across the world in Tyson Fury. We've got this big American fighter who goes for the knockout blows in Deontay Wilder. Before we talk about those two guys, does boxing need the heavyweight division to have personalities like that? Is the sport just flat out better when you've got the heavyweight division on the top of people's tongues and they're talking about those big guys in the ring?
Well, I mean, that's how usually anything always goes. They always like the heavyweights, the big guys in there. But boy, when you look at the days of Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns and these guys, boy, that middleweight division was as exciting or more than the heavyweights. And even the lightweight contenders. Well, if you really like the sport of boxing, I think you appreciate all the divisions. It always seems that it is the most exciting to see the big boys in the ring there clubbing it out. But these little guys, like, those Pacquiaos and these guys with their hands that are so fast, the big guys can't do that, as quick as that. There's some pretty quick big guys. I don't want to say that there's no quick big guys, but, each weight class is a little bit unique in its own way. And if you appreciate the sport of boxing, I think you can watch any weight division if it's good boxers and appreciate it.
For sure, and there's a new series out that's on Showtime called Kings, where you're talking about Leonard and Hagler and Hearns and all these great fighters, where it really was a different time back then. And one of those first rounds in particular, if you go back and watch those guys slug out in the first couple of rounds, is just all-time greats in the prime of their careers. It's great to watch. And just to the heavyweights, Fury's a guy who likes to talk. People you've fought against were talkers. What do you make of the boxer who really likes to run his mouth months and weeks in advance into a fight to try to hype it up?
He just better be able to pull it off.
Back it up, all right.
Back it up, because actually, Verno, he was not a talker. Going back to the Italy fight, I can remember all the reporters when we got off the plane and everything coming over to try to interview him and everything. And, they're just asking him basic questions, and he's like, he's not even wanting to answer, he's just walking along, he's saying, I do my talking in the ring. And they're going, oh, come on, give us a little, what are you going to do, what are you going to do? No, I do my talking in the ring. And because he was really a shy guy. Mm-hmm. And I would always say to Verno, you got to talk it up a little bit. You got to be like Kevin was. He was a talker and everything. Kevin was just excellent as far as like the personality, and Verno was not. But talking in the ring is where it is. So a Conor McGregor, whoever it is, can yak. But once you get in the ring, the guy is going to show you whether you're really going to kick my ass or you're not. So I always would say, go ahead, yip yap all you want, do all your talking, get it out. That's all good hype. That's all. It's all good for the game. But we'll know for sure once it starts.
Sell the fight, make your money, and then we'll find out who's the best in the ring. Now, Fury Wilder, the first time these guys fought, it was a draw. Some would have thought that Fury had won the fight, got knocked out in the 11th. If you go back and watch the replay, you may have been at fights before where the referee might have counted a little too soon. Some refs might have called it in that fight. Fury knocks out Wilder the second time, but it's the third time two of the same men step inside a ring. How difficult can that be fighting anybody for a third time? Is it a completely different fight this time when you fight someone a third time? Do you know what they have?
Sure.
Take us kind of through that setup of a third time.
Well, obviously these guys are quite well versed in knowing that the other guy is watching all of his fights and studying what he's doing and everything else. And he's studying what he did in his last fight and how he got his butt kicked and everything else. So, could I predict? I couldn't predict. You know, when you get into that kind of class of a fighter, you know, that's what fun, that's what betting's about.
Yes.
But I don't know who would win that fight. These guys are both highly qualified, they both got knockout power, and, you know, somebody's going to win.
That's right. See, that's a great box here because you know all it takes is one. All it takes is one punch from one guy. It's a completely different result, and you never knew it was going to pop up. A heavyweight big bout this Saturday night. Boxing Wilder Fury 3. There was nobody to talk to about it better than you. You've seen the in, you've seen the outside, you've been able to spar, you've been able to see a world champion. And now one more time for people who maybe this weekend are listening to this and say, okay, I'm going to come down to Johnstone Supply in Troy right before I watch the big fight. One more time, all the great fall specials that people can take advantage of coming up.
Yep, everything that you might need to repair, replace, or assemble any of your heating equipment, hot water, warm air. We've got all of the UV lights and everything, all the COVID type of indoor air quality equipment that's out now, all the new higher efficiency filters, and just whatever you would need to get prepared for what hopefully will be a cold winter, not a global warming winter.
That's right, that's right.
Nice cold winter.
And by the way, if you come over to 6th Avenue here in Troy and you see George, start asking him about unretiring and get him a pick on a Wilder Fury. See who he likes in that fight. George, I appreciate the time as always, man. Looking forward to the big fight this weekend. I'm probably going to be texting you during the fight and ask you how it's going. So enjoy it and looking forward to catching up again soon.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.